We're going to talk about some Nephilim tonight. One of them is Goliath. Sippai, Lami, Saf, Ishi, Benoth. These are all Goliath's brothers. Now you go all the way back to the book of Genesis, Barashith, 6 and verse 1. We're going to read there because this is where all began. Now it came about, men began to multiply on the face of the land, and daughters were born to them. Now it's talking about mankind here, mankind. And then the sons of God in many places in the Bible are talked about. They're angels. The sons of God saw the daughters of men were beautiful, and they took wives for themselves, whomever they chose. Now in the book of, where is it? The book of Jasher. The book's going all over the place. The book of Jasher and the book of Enoch, it tells you about these individuals. It names them. Then the Lord said, my spirit shall not strive with man forever, because he is flesh, and nevertheless his days shall be 120 years. Now that's not the age that you're going to live to. If you at ripe old age of 121, it's talking about that's how long that God is going to leave them on the earth, because he's going to remove them. The Nephilim were on the earth. The Nephilim means fallen ones. Nephilim. Nephilim means fallen ones. The fallen ones on the earth in those days. These are the descendants of the angels and women, and also afterwards. Those days were the days before the flood, and then afterwards. And the sons of God came into the daughters of men, and they bore them children to them, and these were mighty men of old, giants. Gigantum is what the word in Greek is. Mighty men of old and renowned. And the Lord saw that the wickedness of man was great on the earth, and that every intent of the thoughts of his heart was evil. And then it says that God's going to blot out man. The reason why the flood came was to do away with the genetics of these people. And they were done. But then after the flood, they came again. And now, in 1 Samuel, the 17th chapter, we see after the flood there were more Nephilim. Goliath and his brothers are called Nephilim. Now if you've got a little book, the book of Bible names, you can look in here and you can look up the names. Now Goliath means exile. Now the first time in the Bible that I ever saw the names of Goliath's brothers were from Brown, Driver, and Briggs' Hebrew Lexicon. And I began to, used to read this thing like somebody'd read a book. And it says here it names Goliath's brother. So then as I was going through and reading all the names, I take this book up off of. This is the Arco volume. These are ancient writings. Now here it tells us about these giants. Before the flood, mankind was not given animals to eat at all. Animals were forbidden to eat, but the Nephilim were eating animals and drinking their blood, it says, and also they were killing men and cannibalizing mankind. Now here we run into another Nephilim, Goliath. Now the Philistines gathered their armies for battle, and they were gathered at Soka, which belonged to Judah, and they camped between Soka and Azekah and Ephish Damim. And Saul and the men of Israel were gathered and camped in the valley of Elah, and drew up in battle array to encounter the Philistines. Philistines means what? Uncivilized, uncouth, terrible people. And the Philistines stood in the mountain on one side, while Israel was still on the mountain on the other side, and the valley between them. Now we're going to run into Goliath. Remember Goliath? His name meant exile. Exile. Exile from heaven, actually. Then a champion came out from the armies of the Philistines named Goliath, from Gath, whose height was 6 cubits and a span. Now let's just get down and translate it into English. 9 foot 4 inches. Boy, that's taller than way up here, 9 foot 4 inches. And he had a bronze helmet on his head, and he was clothed with scale armor, which weighed 5,000 shekels of bronze, 141 pounds. And he had bronze greaves on his legs and bronze javelin slung between his shoulders. And the shaft on his spearhead was like a weaver's beam, and the head of the spear weighed 600 shekels, 17 pounds. The spear point weighed 17 pounds of iron, and this shield carrier also walked before him. And he stood and shouted to the ranks of Israel and said to them, "Why do you come out and draw up in battle array? Am I not the Philistine? And you servants of Saul, choose a man for yourselves and let him come down to me. If he's able to fight with me and kill me, then he will become your servants." By the way, Goliath's brothers were there. His brothers were there. All of them together were 5. 5 altogether. If they killed him, then they'd have to kill the other giants. And again the Philistines said, "I defy the ranks of Israel. This day give me a man that we may fight together." Now there's all kinds of stories and movies and stuff about Goliath, that he couldn't see well and all this kind of stuff, but he was a powerful man. He could see very well. He was powerful. And David was the son of the Ephraimite, the Bethlehemite, in Judah, whose name was Jesse, and he had 8 sons. And Jesse was old in the days of Saul and advanced in years among men. And the 3 older sons Jesse had gone after Saul to the battle, and the names of the 3 sons who went to the battle were Eliab, the firstborn. The second to him was Abinadab, and the third was Shimei. And David was the youngest, remember, of all these brothers. And now the 3 oldest followed Saul. But David went back and forth from Saul to tend his father's flock in Bethlehem. And the Philistine came forward morning and evening for 40 days and took his stand against Israel. Then Jesse said to David his son, "Take now for your brothers an ephah of roasted grain and 10 loaves of bread, and run to the camp to your brothers. Bring also these 10 cuts of cheese to the commander of their 1,000, and look into the welfare of your brothers and bring back news of them. For Saul and they, all the men of Israel, are in the valley of Eli fighting with the Philistines." The story gets more tense now. So David also arose early and left the flock with a keeper and took the supplies, and he went to Jesse had commanded him, and he came to the circle of the camp while the army was going out to battle array, shouting the war cry. And Israel and the Philistines drew up in battle array, army against army. Then David left his baggage in the care of the baggage keeper, and he ran to the battle line and entered in order to greet his brothers. And he was talking with them. Behold, the champion, the Philistine from Gath, named Goliath, was coming up from home, or from the army of the Philistines, and he spoke these same words, and David heard them. When all the sons of Israel saw the man, they fled from him and were greatly afraid. And the men of Israel said, "Have you seen this man who is coming up? Surely he is coming up to defy Israel, and it will be that the king will enrich the man who kills him with great riches, and will give him his daughter, and make his father's house free in all of Israel, free of all taxes and all inscription." Then David spoke to the men who were standing by him, saying, "What will be done to the man who kills this Philistine and takes away the reproach from Israel? For who is this uncircumcised Philistine that he should taunt the armies of the living God? Jehovah, Yah, the ever-existing one." And the people answered him in accord with the word, saying, "This is what will be done to the man who kills him." Now Eliab, his oldest brother, heard when he spoke to the men, and Eliab's anger burned against David. A little upstart, you know. And he said, "Why have you come down here? Why did you come here? And with whom have you left those few sheep in the wilderness? Get back and do your work. You don't belong here. I know your insolence and the wickedness of your heart, for you have come down here in order to see the battle." But David said, "What have I done now? Was it not just a question?" Then he turned away from him to another and said the same thing, and the people answered him the same thing as before. And when the words which David spoke were heard, they told them to Saul, and he sent for him. Now he knew him. And David said to Saul, "Let no man's heart fail on account of him. Your servant will go and fight with this Philistine." He's a young guy. He has not fought in battle. He's killed bear and he killed lion, but he has not fought a giant, a Nephilim. And David said, or Saul said to David, "You are not able to go against the Philistine to fight with him. You are but a youth, while he is but a warrior from his youth." But David said to Saul, "Your servant is tending his sheep, father's sheep, and when a lion and a bear came and took a lamb from the flock, I went after him and attacked him, and I rescued it from its mouth. And when he rose up against me, I seized him by his beard, and I struck him, and I killed him." David was a warrior out in the field with wild animals. They're well armed. A lion got great big teeth and crushing teeth and jaws and claws that rip anything apart. Your servant has killed both the lion and the bear, and this uncircumcised Philistine will be like one of them, since he has taunted the armies of the living God. So David said, "The Lord who delivered me from the paw of the lion and the paw of the bear, he will deliver me from the hand of this Philistine." And Saul said to David, "Go, and may the Lord be with you." Now David carried a slingshot out tending the sheep. He had a staff and he had a rod. And the rod was what you beat things with, you whip the dog with, or whip the sheep with until we get back in line. The staff was what, or that you had a hook on the end of it. They could grab them by the neck and pull them back in and get them back in line. So these are sheep herding tools. Now, pay attention to what I said. "And the Lord clothed David with his garments and put on a bronze helmet on his head, and he clothed him with armor. And David girded his sword over his armor and tried to walk, for he had not tested them. So David said to Saul, I cannot go with these things, for I have not tested them. And David took them off. He's going to go after that Philistine for what he went after: wolves and sheep out in the sheepfold, wolves and lions and bears. And he took his stick in his hand, and he chose for himself 5 smooth stones from the brook. He knew he had 4 brothers, so he had to kill 5 people. He wasn't going to miss. David could throw a rock, a stone, very, very accurately with that slingshot. And he put them in a shepherd's bag, which he had even in his pouch, and his sling was in his hand, and he approached the Philistine. He's going to work him over. People say the Philistine was old, Gath was old, he was nearly blind, he was crippled, he couldn't get up and get down, and etc., etc. But he was a warrior, and besides that, he's a Nephilim. They don't grow old like we do. And the Philistine came on and approached David with his shield bearer in front of him. And the Philistine looked and saw David, and he disdained him. He despised him, for he was but a youth and ruddy, with a handsome appearance. He's a pretty boy. And the Philistine said to David, am I a dog that you come out with me with sticks? His rod? He's going to whip him like he whipped the dog, or whipped a sheep when he got out of line. You come out here like you're going to shepherd me. And the Philistine cursed David by his gods. And the Philistine also said to David, come to me, and I will give your flesh to the birds of the sky and the beasts of the field. And David said to the Philistine, you come to me with a sword and a spear and a javelin, but I come to you in the name of the Lord of hosts, Jehovah Sabaoth, and the God of the armies of Israel, whom you have taunted. This day the Lord will deliver you into my hand, and I will strike you down and remove your head from you. And I will give the dead bodies of the army of the Philistines this day to the birds of the sky and the wild beasts of the earth, and the earth may know that there is a God in Israel. A real God. And all the assembly may know that the Lord does not deliver by sword or spear, for the battle is the Lord's, and he will give you into my hands. Then it happened that the Philistine rose and came and drew near to David. And David ran quickly toward the battle line to meet the Philistine. He wasn't backing off. And David put in his hand, in his bag, and he took from it a stone, and sling it, and struck the Philistine in the forehead. And the stone sank into his forehead, so that he fell on his face to the ground. These people, these Nephilim, are hard to kill. They are supernatural. They're hard to kill. God guided that stone and made it go deep into his brain. And he fell on his face to the ground. And David prevailed over the Philistine with a sling and a stone, and he struck the Philistine and killed him. But there was no sword in David's hand. And David ran and took over the Philistine, stood over the Philistine, and took his sword and drew it out of the sheath and killed him, and cut off his head with it. And when the Philistines saw that their champion was dead, they fled. And there's 4 more of them. There's 4 more giants there. He's got 4 more stones. They didn't come at him. This boy has got the power of Jehovah Sabaoth. And the men of Israel and Judah arose and shouted and pursued the Philistines as far as the entrance to the valley and to the gates of Ekron, and they slay the Philistines, lay a long way to Sharim, even to Gath and Ekron. And the sons of Israel returned from chasing the Philistines, and they plundered their camps. Then David took the Philistines' head and brought it to Jerusalem, but he put his weapons in his tent. Now when Saul saw David going out against the Philistines, he said to Abner, the commander of the army, Abner, whose son is this young man? And Abner said, by your life, O king, I do not know. And the king said, you inquire whose son this youth is. So David returned from the killing of the Philistines, and Abner took him and brought him before Saul, the Philistine, head in his hand. And Saul said to him, whose son are you, young man? And David said, I am the son of your servant, Jesse the Bethlehemite. Now it came about, when he had finished speaking to Saul, the soul of Jonathan was knit with the soul of David, and Jonathan loved him as himself. These 2 men loved each other. They weren't homosexuals either. They were 2 men that loved each other. They trusted each other with their lives, and we'll find that out later. So we got Lami, we got Zaph, we got Ishbenoth, we got Sippai or Sippi. We got all these brothers. Later on, they were all killed. You can read about it in 1 Samuel 7:14 and 49 and 50, 2 Samuel 21, 16 and 17 and 19, 18 and 21 and 20 and 21, 1 Chronicles 20, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Genesis 6:1-4, where we read, and 7:21, Numbers 13:1 and 2, and 32:33, Numbers 21:19, Deuteronomy 3:11, Isaiah 17:5, Joshua 8 and verse 16, 17 and verse 5, and 15 and verse 8. Or you can go to Brown Driver Bridge and look it up in Hebrew. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe if you are on YouTube. Please pray for us that we'll continue to glorify God in the ways that we have, and teach things that sometimes are hard to understand, but it's God's Word. My Father, we send this message out for your honor and glory. Please use it wherever it goes. Father, please forgive me where I fail you. In Jesus' precious name I pray.